Can you really trust car reliability studies like Consumer Reports and JD Power? That's what we're going to find out. Welcome to Car Help Q&A. My name is Shari, and today I'm going to be answering your car questions from the comment section. And the first question has to do with reliability studies, so let's get right into it. What sources do you rely on regarding reliability? My guess is Consumer Reports and JD Power, but I know there are many others. Sometimes the aforementioned sources contradict one another, so it makes evaluating vehicles more difficult. Okay, well, interesting question. Now, as many of you know who watch the channel, I make a lot of videos evaluating the reliability of different vehicles, and I actually use a lot of different sources when determining which vehicles are reliable and not reliable. I kind of like to do my own meta-analysis where I look at several different reputable sources, including surveys from Consumer Reports, iSeeCars, CarEdge, as well as anecdotal evidence from mechanics who actually work on these cars. And I take all that data, look at all of it together, and then determine which vehicles are the most reliable and not. And I think that's the safest, most accurate way to get a safe general picture on which cars are reliable. That's the best way to do it. Now, the reason why I like to use those particular sources, the ones that I mentioned, Consumer Reports, iSeeCars, CarEdge, because they are reputable sources, they have excellent methodology for the way they collect their data on reliability, and most importantly, they look at long-term data. They don't just look at cars that are 1 to 2 years old. Their surveys look at cars that are 5 years old, 10 years old, sometimes up to 20 years old. So they have that long-term data, which is the best way to gauge how reliable vehicles are. Now, the one source that I do not reference and I never mention in any of my videos is JD Power. Now, JD Power is a reputable source, no question about that. My issue with them is the methodology that they use for their reliability studies. They have a 3-year dependability study that they like to publish, which shows you how reliable cars are after 3 years of ownership. And then they also have an initial quality study, which is done after the first 90 days of ownership. Now, I have big problems with both of these studies. 3 years is nowhere near long enough to determine how reliable a car is going to be. And 90 days, the first 90 days or 3 months of ownership, that's much worse. You cannot determine how reliable a vehicle is after owning it for just 3 months. The first 3 months are absolutely no indicator whatsoever of how reliable a car is going to be in the long run. And more importantly, there is absolutely no correlation whatsoever with a car after the first 3 months and how reliable it's going to be after 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. So it's completely misleading information, and that's why you see all kinds of ridiculous results when you look at JD Power's dependability studies and quality studies. I mean, the rankings make absolutely no sense. If you look at their latest initial quality study, for example, they rank brands like Chevrolet and Nissan and Jaguar in the top 5. I mean, in what world does Jaguar make more reliable cars than Toyota, or Land Rover making higher quality cars than Mazda? I mean, the results are just completely ridiculous. And all this does is mislead consumers, confuse consumers, and not much else. I mean, I really don't understand why they even publish these reports and what they plan to achieve by publishing it, because I think the information is completely useless and it's not an accurate way to gauge how reliable a car is going to be in the long run. So basically, to answer your question, I like to do a meta-analysis, look at several sources, weigh them all, and that gives me an accurate picture. And the sources that I mentioned, Consumer Reports, iSeeCars, CarEdge, and of course talking to mechanics, that's the safest and best way to determine how reliable cars are. So hopefully that answers that. Okay, let's move on to our next question now. Is it necessary to warm up and cool down modern turbo engines? Okay, well, interesting question. Now, There is this belief that with turbocharged engines, because the turbocharger gets incredibly hot, you do have to warm up the engine and let the engine cool down for at least several seconds when you turn on the car and before you turn off the car after your drive. Now, in the old days, this was definitely the case. With modern turbocharged engines, it's not necessarily necessary to be doing this because the system is designed to protect the turbocharger and allow it to properly warm up and cool down after your drives by itself. If you want to be on the safe side, you can let the car sit for a few seconds just to be safe, but it's technically not necessary to do so. What I would be more concerned with is how you drive the vehicle, because turbocharged engines tend to be very sensitive to short distance drives. So if you're going to buy a car with a turbocharged engine, make sure that you do longer drives on a regular basis, at least 10, 15 miles, 20 kilometers at a time, so that the engine properly warms up, it burns off the condensation, the turbocharger is run in properly, and drive the car a little bit hard so that you're going to get better reliability out of that engine and protect the turbocharger in the long run. One of the worst things you can do for a turbo engine, and most modern engines in general, is do very short distance drives, just a few miles at a time, where the engine doesn't properly warm up. That's one of the easiest ways to create long-term issues and reliability problems, and sometimes even engine failures happen from that. So try to do longer drives on a regular basis, and then you should be okay. All right, now for the next one. Love your videos. In the recent episode, you commented on the reliability of Hyundai and Kia. What are your thoughts and impressions of recent Genesis products, specifically the GV70 or GV80? While I should probably buy an RX 350 hybrid, given the scarcity, getting a dealer, to be fair, has proven to be impossible. Well, yes, absolutely. If you can get one, I would absolutely recommend buying a Lexus RX 350 hybrid. That's a phenomenal SUV, incredibly well made, high quality, and excellent reliability. Probably the best in the luxury class. If you want a long-term vehicle, that's my number one recommendation. As for Genesis, yes, Genesis is part of Hyundai and Kia. And if you look at the reliability studies and data over the past 4 or 5 years, and owner satisfaction ratings and owner experiences, Genesis has not had a solid track record for reliability. They sometimes have quality issues, generally electronic problems, sometimes drivetrain problems with the engines. So no, they're definitely not at the same level as Lexus when it comes to reliability. Now, having said that, they do have a very good warranty and maintenance plan, the longest in the industry. So at least for the first 5 years, you're not going to have to worry about much. So if you want to buy one for maybe shorter term ownership or a lease for 3 to 4 years, Genesis is perfectly fine. But for a long-term purchase, if you want to keep the car for 10, 15 years, Lexus is the way to go. And keep in mind, even if you can't get a really good deal on the Lexus, you might not be able to get a good deal on the Genesis either, because they technically have no haggle, fixed all-in pricing. So keep that in mind. Okay, next question. Hello, I am considering buying a 2025 Volkswagen Jetta Highline. Can you describe in few words about the Volkswagen Jetta? Are they very reliable cars? Love your shows. Well, the short answer is no, they're not very reliable cars. Historically, Jettas, just like many other Volkswagen products, do have shaky reliability. They can develop problems with the electronics, the sensors, the engines. In the case of the Jetta, it's a 1.5 liter turbocharged engine, which does have a somewhat poor track record for being reliable. They can develop all kinds of problems. I have heard of engine failures in those cars. So no, I would not say that Jettas are a safe choice for long-term reliability, and the survey data for reliability supports that. Now, if you want to have a compact car that's similar to the Jetta, that will be reliable, last you a long time, and have a very low risk of issues, I would recommend buying a Mazda 3, a Honda Civic, Toyota Corolla. Those are the safest choices to go for. You're not going to have any headaches, and you're going to have a much more pleasant ownership experience in the long run. So that would be my go-to choices. I'll have a video that's going to cover the Jetta in more detail in the future, but basically that's the short answer. All right, Next one now. Hyundai Venue or Chevy Trax for reliability, affordable, low on maintenance, and insurance. Please advise. So between those two vehicles, I would personally go with the Hyundai Venue. My issue with the Chevy Trax is that it has a very tiny 1.2 liter 3-cylinder turbocharged engine. That engine is going to be under a lot of pressure and a lot of potential reliability issues as the vehicle ages. So I would not feel very comfortable keeping one of those for the long run. Whereas the Hyundai Venue has a much larger 4-cylinder engine, 1.6 liters, naturally aspirated, no turbochargers, and the Venue is generally a pretty solid car. It has a good track record for being reliable. It's basically the modern equivalent of the Hyundai Accent. Mechanically the same vehicle, and historically those have been pretty good cars for Hyundai. So not a lot of known issues with them. They're pretty good cars, they're very affordable to buy, and they're very desirable because they're small, they're easy to drive, easy to park, they're a little bit higher up off the ground, making them easy to get in and out of. A lot of seniors absolutely love them for that reason, and they're desirable. It'll be an easy car to sell and maintain its value in the long run. So yeah, between those two, I would go with the Venue. Okay, now for our next question. If I wanted a full-size sedan that I only drive on my party weekends, which one should I go for and why? Kia K900, Cadillac CT6, Genesis G90, or Lexus LX? All between 3 to 5 years old. Okay, no question, the one to go from this group, Lexus LS. That is the go-to full-size luxury sedan. Incredibly comfortable, very well made, and unparalleled when it comes to its reliability. If you want a safe, well-made vehicle that's not going to give you all kinds of repair headaches, the Lexus LS is the one to buy. No question. Don't even bother looking at any of those other vehicles on the list. They're just not worth it. They're all very low volume vehicles that didn't sell in significant numbers. I'm sure parts and servicing is going to be a problem with them anyways. So no, just avoid them. Go for the Lexus LX. It's not just a great car to own for your party weekends. You can drive that car every day of the week, and it's a great daily driver. It's going to tolerate abuse and high mileage with no problem. So that's what I would buy. All right, next question now. I was planning to get a sports car or performance type car, either the Hyundai Elantra N or Mustang EcoBoost. What would you recommend for me for better reliability and overall better purchase? Well, between those two cars, they both have their reliability concerns, specifically with the engines. Hyundai does have a history of having problems with its turbocharged 4-cylinder engines, as does Ford with its turbocharged EcoBoost engine. So neither one is really the safest choice. But given the choice between those two, I would go with the Mustang. I think it's a better car in general. They seem to have a good track record and pretty good feedback from owners. Not a lot of history of major complaints with them. They're more desirable, they maintain their value very well, so you'll at least be able to get a lot of your money back if you don't like the car down the road. And I just think Mustangs are pretty fun cars to drive. So between those two, that would be my choice. And I will have a video on the top 10 sports cars that's going to include some more affordable options. So make sure to watch out for that video because that should be helpful too. All right, now for our next question. Is the Mitsubishi Outlander a good, reliable vehicle? What are the challenges of owning a Mitsubishi in Canada? Okay, great question. Now, what I would say about Mitsubishi is that in general, they are average vehicles at best when it comes to reliability. Certainly nowhere near the best Japanese cars. And the Outlander is probably a little bit below average, even by Mitsubishi standards. And that's because it's not really a Mitsubishi. It actually shares all of its parts, its platform, and its drivetrain with Nissan. It uses a Nissan engine and the Nissan Jatco brand CVT continuously variable transmission, which historically is not a very good transmission and is somewhat failure prone at low mileage. So because that vehicle does have those concerns, I would not say it's the safest choice for long-term ownership if you want a reliable SUV. And the problem with Mitsubishi in general, especially in Canada and North America, is that it's such a small company. They have very few dealerships. When the cars are older, they can be more challenging to service and get parts for. They're more difficult to work on. And their customer service is just not very good from being such a small company. I mean, they do advertise having the longest warranty in the industry, which they're super proud of, a 10-year powertrain warranty. But it's very difficult to get the company to actually honor warranty claims. They're super difficult to deal with. They want to see all kinds of evidence, and they're looking for any loophole they can to get out of filing or honoring a warranty claim. Especially if you have a major engine problem when the car is 8-9 years old. So no, I wouldn't recommend buying one. It's not the best choice. There's so many better other SUVs out there that you should be buying instead. So watch out for my videos on most reliable SUVs and my comparison SUV videos. I have a lot of them on the channel that will be very helpful for you. All right, next one. Question: I'm going to be trading my Acura TSX soon. Single, retired, and I'm looking at either the Lexus NX Hybrid or 2026 Mazda CX-5. I prefer the hybrid, but like the looks of the shots of the new Mazda. Any thoughts? Thanks for all your videos. Okay, well, this is actually a situation where I really don't think you can go wrong because you've chosen two phenomenal SUVs. Both historically have terrific reliability, very well made, incredibly well designed, both from Japan. So I think you have a really good choice here to make. Now, the Lexus, of course, is a lot more expensive. If you're okay spending the extra money, I think it is worth it because it's a very nice SUV, very comfortable to drive, very fuel efficient, and you can keep it for a long time. But if you want to save your money, nothing is wrong with the CX-5. It's going to be a lot less expensive, still an excellent SUV, very nice to drive, maybe not quite as comfortable as the Lexus or as fuel efficient, but in every other regard, almost as good. So you really can't go wrong choosing between those two. So there you have it. Thanks so much for watching the video. Now I'm going to be taking a short break, hopefully a short break, from making these weekly Q&A videos for a little while because my workload is quite heavy and it's proven to be pretty challenging to make 3 videos a week. So I'm going to take a break for a little while, but they will come back in the future, I promise. Q&A will be back. So in the meantime, thanks so much for watching the channel, and I'll see you next time.